This constitutes a security hazard.
In 1969, Dinky Toys found themselves in a little bit of a tight spot when it came to making new Gerry Anderson toys because Century 21's latest show was The Secret Service, and the star car was a 1917 Model T Ford. Not exactly the same exciting action vehicles that you would see with something like Thunderbird 2 or an SPV or something like that. But nevertheless, Dinky did make a toy of Gabriel from the Secret Service, and I have one right here, which I'm going to show you. Let me bring it closer to the camera. Let me get it in focus for you. As you can see, it's a nice enough little toy. It's a Model T Ford. It's yellow. It's got Gabriel written on the sides. It has the spare wheel. It's got, moving wheels. It's got a little bit of detail on the underside there. And of course, it has its own little figure of Father Stanley Unwin sitting inside at the steering wheel. Not necessarily the most detailed figure in the world, but, I think we should just be grateful to have anything, to be honest, based on this particular show. Yeah, let's see. What can we say? Don't worry, this isn't the entire video. I do have more planned. But just to tell you a little bit about the Dinky Gabriel here, working from the Gerry Anderson Book of Dinky Toys. This is catalogue number 109. It was issued in 1969, deleted in 1971. So this was only on the shelves for 2 years, because of course, by 1971, everyone had forgotten about the Secret Service. It's 79mm long. It originally retailed for 7 shillings and 11 pence. And of course, the only colour it ever came in was black and yellow. They never did any colour variants, which for a Dinky toy, quite impressive really, that it's screen accurate. Because they weren't famous for doing things in the right colour, but then again, what else would you do to make it distinguishable as that car from the Secret Service? How do you make it look like not a regular Model T Ford? Now, of course, Dinky did make a Model T Ford prior to this. According to this book, said prior to producing Gabriel in 1969, Dinky made another Ford Model T vehicle from 1964 to 1967 called Santa's Merry Christmas Ford, which was catalogue number 485. And this was finished in white with a red chassis and yellow wheels. The wheels and the base are exactly the same as what you got for Gabriel. And I think really that's the reason why we ended up getting a Gabriel toy in the first place. Dinky already had all the component parts that they needed in order to make it. So for them, it was kind of like, well, we make Gerry Anderson toys, sure, let's do a Gabriel as well. But it does get me thinking on a wider scale about Secret Service merchandise. There hasn't been an awful lot of it, partly because the show was fundamentally difficult to merchandise, because it just didn't have any of the star vehicles of all the previous Century 21 and AP Films series. So what could they do apart from a Model T Ford? There really wasn't a lot of options. But also, of course, the actual series itself was not very widely seen, so making merchandise of it, well, they wouldn't have sold very much even if they had made it. So, it kind of makes sense that we didn't get very much, and this is one of the few examples that we did. They did do things like books, the John Thaden novels, which, they exist. I think there's also a comic strip as well. What else has happened? Obviously, we did get a VHS release in the 90s, and then Network did do a DVD release later on. Those are basically essential, I think. If you want Secret Service merchandise, you've obviously got to buy the series itself. Chris Dale did a really wonderful book of the series, which is well worth taking a look at. Fanderson, of course, have done an interesting range of Secret Service merchandise over the years, and well, we might be taking a look at some of that in a moment. But just to wrap up, I think Eric Chu also did a Secret Service poster recently, a bit like, the ones that you see behind me. And of course, we've had soundtrack releases. Again, Fanderson did do a soundtrack release for the Secret Service, but then Silver Screen did a sort of official, one that was available to the general public, which was really, really good, using, of course, Barry Gray's soundtrack there. Otherwise, if there's any other Secret Service merchandise out there that I'm forgetting about, I do apologize, but I wanted to go over just to show you the extent of what you could do with Secret Service merchandise. We have these tea towels. Fanderson, I got these from a Fanderson convention in 2019. I think this is a Graham Bleethman piece of artwork here of the church. Looks very, very lovely. And it's exactly the sort of thing you want to see on a tea towel. Let's put it that way. It fits really, really nicely. So there we go. That's the church. Looks absolutely gorgeous. I love that. That's really nice to see. And then I'm just going to drape that across here. And then we have one more as well, this is a piece of, I believe it's Mike Noble artwork. Yes, Mike Noble, 2012 was this piece of Secret Service artwork. Look at this. That is gorgeous. That's a beautiful little representation of the whole show with all the key kind of elements there to enjoy. Really, really lovely. Very nice indeed. Perfect for the Secret Service to have a tea towel, of all things. But it gets me thinking, okay, what if in the 1990s, when Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, Stingray, and even Joe 90 were enjoying a new run of merchandise courtesy of Matchbox and Vivid Imaginations, what if the Secret Service had been a part of that little Super Mario Nation revival? What if we had seen Vivid Imagination say, pick up the license and do some Secret Service toys? What could we have seen that would have been in a similar vein to what was being put out for the other shows? So immediately I'm thinking, well, I think we would have gotten a reissue or something very similar to this Model T Ford for the Secret Service, just in the 1990s. Probably, honestly, wouldn't have been too dissimilar to what we've got here. But I also think, again, hypothetically, we're just shooting random ideas out here. Wouldn't it have been fun to have a large Gabriel playset, similar to a lot of the other ones that I've talked about on the show previously? Maybe, so think about the Space Precinct police cruiser. Imagine something of that scale and with that kind of detail, maybe with I don't know, I'm just grabbing a figure off the shelf here, but I've got Troy Tempest here. Imagine a Father Stanley Unwin figure and a Gabriel made to fit. Wouldn't that have been just something? I actually don't know what play features it would have had. I presumably would have had a canopy that went up and down. But this is the thing, Gabriel didn't even have any gadgets on it. It didn't even have like a machine gun or anything else to kind of play with at the front. So I don't know, maybe the toy would have added little bits and pieces like that. But yeah, of course, I would have imagined a whole line of action figures, probably more similar to the Captain Scarlet and the Space Precinct ones than these. But, you would have had Father Unwin, Matthew, possibly Matthew in two different sizes, of course, because he would have shrunk down. Mrs. Appleby, because why not? The Bishop, and even Agent Blake, why not? That's 5 figures you could have had right there. Another toy that I would have really liked, this would have been probably quite similar to the Joe 90 spy case that they did. I think obviously it would have fitted really nicely to have a case where you could have sat a little Matthew figure inside of it. And you could have actually used it as a spy case. It could have had all sorts of little gadgets inside, like, I don't know, an invisible ink pen and a UV light or a little microphone or something like that. It could have had all those little play features included inside, but you could have also had a little seat in there to sit a Matthew figure in. I think that would have been great. And actually, thinking about it, a little Matthew figure, maybe in the size I just showed you, the sort of, what is that, like a 4-inch size or 3 3/4 inch size Matthew, you could have had a 12-inch figure for Father Unwin, and you could have paired those two up together quite nicely. That would have been about right, actually, in terms of the scale. So yeah, 12-inch Father Unwin figure, because again, why not? And then the other thing I was thinking of, you could have had a minimizer about the size of a regular book, really, that just would have had a little, a little light ray that would have come up and lit up, and it could have made all the sound effects. Press a button and it makes a buzzing noise, that sort of thing. Similar, I suppose, to like the Mr. on Ring projector that you could get. That was a fun little toy, I suppose. So you could have had something like that for the Secret Service that was like the minimizer. Because again, why not? In a weird alternate reality, I guess you could have had some interesting Secret Service toys. Ultimately, of course, the show was never popular enough to warrant anything like that. But it's nice to imagine sometimes, isn't it? Nice to make up nonsense like this. But for now, obviously, very happy that we got a Dinky toy of Gabriel, and we have, silly little things like these tea towels. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful stuff. But that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/securityhazard, where you can give what you can, but only if you can. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Security hazard negative.